So fascinating, because you're not a financial advisor, you're not an accountant, you're just a normal guy.
Yeah.
How did you even come about to start this in the first place?
I think it's because my journey was deep in debt, mid-20s into today. And when I was trying to learn everything about personal finance, I was really struggling to find someone that I could relate to in the UK. There was a real lack of, say, influencers or people other than Martin Lewis. And they were all American. I was in marketing for years, and I just saw the gap there. And I knew that when I'd gone on this journey, I'd kind of got to the point where I was teaching friends and family, and it had grown so big, and we had a WhatsApp group with like 200 people in it. And I was like, do you guys not have anywhere to go? And the answer was always like, no, we can't find anything, or it's like jargon heavy, which is like everyone says that nowadays, but like that was what it was at the time. So I was like, well, what would happen if I built it? So I thought about it, pondered on it for a little while, and then the journey began.
That's amazing. And what do you think was the turning point in your mindset from going from working in marketing to then going into finance?
To be honest with you, it's very much similar. So when you build businesses, you're just changing who the user is and how you're reaching them. So you just have to reevaluate how you're going to go to market with that product, because it's still a product at the end of the day, even if you're just marketing a service. So you need to think about that and change who you're going after, and that's all that really changes when it comes to that.
And I think what you're doing is so unique and great. How did you find your USP? Because obviously Martin Lewis, he's great. He talks about so many things that are so helpful, but especially on social media, you see so many young men talking about finance, but they do it in such a flashy way, which just isn't very relatable. So how did you find something that was yours and you made it unique?
So I feel like this is something that comes up a lot, but finance is generally quite non-fun topic.
It's boring.
Okay, cool. You said it, not me.
It's boring.
It's boring, yeah, for sure. It really is. And it needed an injection of life and personality, fun, colours. These are things that were really lacking. And so that's what I brought to the table. I brought myself. I've got a bit about me. I can chat for England. So I bring topics and I break them down, and I like to show people that, look, I've been through all of this and look where I am now. And this is the journey that you can go on. If I can do it, then you can too. And that is really what I'm trying to bring to the table. And people relate to that more than, a suit telling them this is how you need to do it, and you must invest in these types of things, or open these types of accounts, or you must run your life like this. They switch off immediately.
Yeah.
So bringing some humour, some personality to the table really changes the game, I think.
I would so agree with you, because I got a creative director to basically look at my social media and basically tell me everything I'm doing wrong. And I was posting videos in a suit, because I thought, okay, I'm a young female, I need to look professional so people take me seriously. And he went, get rid of the suit. He was like, get your baggy jumper on, and people find that way more relatable. And do you know what? I thought, are you joking? I was like, I need to be really professional. I need to make sure I look serious as an accountant. Yeah. But being relatable has helped my personal brand and build my social media so much more than me sitting in a suit talking about finance.
100% agree.
But I didn't realise for ages, and I don't think a lot of accountants do. If you look at accountants on Instagram, a lot of them are in suits and they're talking about things very formally, sort of using language that the normal person wouldn't understand. Mm-hmm. And so it's so important to strip it back to the basics and start from there.
Yeah, 100%. And look, majority of us went through school. If you said to us, oh yeah, I'm going to be an accountant, normally that would be associated with the more boring people in your year. But that's not necessarily the case. And so it's really refreshing to see people like yourselves and other people within the space coming at it with tons of colour and personality, because actually that's what it really needs to kind of be able to kind of cross over into that more every single person territory, rather than a select few people that need help with their finances.
Yeah, massively. So you talk about personal finance a lot. What do you think the most common misconception about personal finance is?
Yeah, so people feel like there's a pathway and that's it, and that they must follow this pathway. Mm-hmm. But actually there's tons and tons of different techniques and ways, and actually finding what suits you is actually what you need to go out and do. So often people will try something once, go, oh, that didn't work for me. And that's it. And they shut their barriers off. So I'm massive around positive mindset and building positive loops around your money and creating the right habits, because often personal finance, we get stuck in bad habits of overspending or not investing, not understanding things. So we shut ourselves off completely and we don't ever kind of take action on those things. So for me, understanding that there perhaps is a completely different route and going out and trying to find that and not getting yourself like beat up about the bad stuff that you might have done in the past, because we've all like overspent on credit cards. We've all done stupid stuff.
We've all done impulse spending.
Exactly. So I feel like that's often the misconception around personal finance.
I think that's so important. For someone getting into their personal finance journey, where would you say, what would you start with? Because I think it's so overwhelming.
It is massively. So I would always start with where you are in terms of your own personal finance, and I would kind of go deep into a mindset and understand exactly what you are as a person. Like, are you a saver? Are you risk averse? Do you like risk? Understanding these things about yourself. So a piece of awareness first is really powerful, because it really will set you up. I'm a firm believer that actually the 10% of personal finance kind of stays the same, really, the steps of wealth, building wealth, but actually majority of it is in your mind. So getting your mind right, are you ready to then move forward on this wealth journey that you'll go on? Because getting your why right and getting what you're doing it for, so I'm a big believer in that too, is like you must have a reason. So I have a very clear 1 year, 5 year ultimate goal. And my why is actually the feelings that those goals are associated with. Mm-hmm. So when the going gets tough, you've got your why, which can always bring you back to center, because life's going to happen, stuff's going to get thrown at you. Yeah. So just knowing that and being able to recenter when something goes wrong and not completely derailing yourself is a really, really powerful thing. So I think starting there is a great place, and then you can move into, saving and then investing essentially from there. Yeah,
and this is your sort of business too, and I think mindset comes so well into that, because you have to have such a strong why and such a strong purpose, because things go wrong all the time in life. Yeah. I have weeks that I'm like, why am I doing this? This is a horrible idea. And then I go back to my purpose and my why, and it's so strong, and I go, okay, I'm going to collect my feelings, my thoughts, and just push on, and I can do this. And it's really important to sort of not fall down at the first barrier, because that's where most people stop.
100%. And I feel like the value of having an emergency fund in place is probably overlooked by the majority of people. Investing and, building businesses and making money online, that's the sexy part. So everybody naturally wants to jump in and do that early. Yeah. But actually securing yourselves financially is actually the fundamentally the most important step, especially if you've struggled in the past with debt, or you're on a paycheck to paycheck cycle. Getting yourself with an emergency fund. Now, a lot of gurus out there will say 3 to 6 months, and I do agree with them, but actually just getting the first £500 and then the next £1,000 on top of that is a great way to get started. So I'm like, take your goal of 3 months or 6 months or whatever that is, and simplify it and create lots and lots of little milestones for you to hit, and then go and do that. But essentially, once you've got £1,000 in place, or a month's pay at least, then you can start to save and invest. And then essentially, let's say you've got £100 and you were doing £100 into your emergency fund. Once you get to that point and you're really desperate to start saving and investing, you could perhaps bring that £50, go down to £50 with your emergency fund, and then save £50, for example. So you feel like you're making progress, because often, some reason, people don't feel like having an emergency fund is making progress. But once they get to that point, and all the people that I ever work with, once they get to that 3 months, honestly, the weight that comes off your shoulders is insane just by having that there, because you have freedom, you have choice at that point. Yeah. If your boss walks in and starts swearing at you, you can literally turn around and go, no, I'm not going to handle this anymore. Actually, I don't want to. Why? Because I have the security to make that decision. Yeah. So it gives you a lot of power. And honestly, that for me is massively important with personal finance.
The last few years, businesses have had it rough. Company insolvencies hit a 30-year high in 2023. Whether you're running your own business or advising clients, Informe is here to help. A free website powered by AAT, Informe provides free guidance to empower small business owners to make more informed decisions. Download the ebook, How to Stay Afloat When the Going Gets Tough, at informe.co.uk/unconventional. I think that's so right. When I was leaving my corporate job, I was like, okay, I know I've got X amount of money saved in my emergency fund, so I can now leave this job and I don't need to earn anything for X amount of months because I'll know I'll be okay. And that like relief and security was so important to me, and it has allowed me to do what I do now, which I'm so grateful for. But I think sometimes when you're saving, you lose track of what you're saving for, and it's so difficult to save if you don't have a goal. I always tell people, find a goal. If it's saving for a house, going travelling, buying a car, being financially free, set a goal for yourself, and then it's so much easier to work towards.
Yeah, 100%. So like having a 1 year goal and a 5 year goal is very easy, and then an ultimate goal is usually always some sort of financial freedom. But you can work towards your 5 year goal and your 1 year goal quite easily. And essentially, once you hit that 1 year goal, you just reset yourself a new one. And after 1 year, that 5 year goal might have changed because life happens. Kids, car blows up, whatever that might well be, right? So many different aspects of life happen. And I just have a really simple rule with my money. It's just so clear. So no matter what amount I get paid or I want to save and invest, I know exactly what's happening with it. So it's called the 5 year rule. And essentially the 5 year rule, 5 years or less is saved towards your 1 year and 5 year goal. And if I don't need that money for 5 years or more, it's invested. So if I'm paid £100, I know immediately what my allocations of those would be. I'm obviously now way more aggressive on the investing side, barely save anything because my emergency fund is in place, and I don't really have that big goals in the next 1 to 5 years other than running my business and being financially free. So it will look very different for you. And this is the one thing as well, not one person is the same in personal finance. Like you could line up 100 individuals, all paid 40 grand, and every single budget would look completely different. You could also do that with 1 million people, and I guarantee you would not find one budget that matched down to the last pence the same. So just understanding that is totally cool. So just knowing that your situation is going to be unique in every single thing. There are ways to do things, yes, but just don't put that kind of pressure on yourself that you need to be this like incredible person that invests all their money in cemetery, because your life might look completely different.
No, and I agree. I used to invest a lot more money because I didn't need it, and now I need it because I'm running a business and I've got business expenses. And so my budget is different to what it was even 6 months ago. But it's so important to change your budget for what you need, and also for your budget to be realistic. I have a lot of clients come to me going, I'm budgeting but it's not working, and then I go, okay, let's review it, and it's because they've put like £50 for going out for the whole month. That's not realistic. And so it needs to work for you, and I think that's so important. But you talk about this so well on social media, because finance is inherently quite dull. How do you go around making content on social media that's actually engaging and people enjoy it?
Colour. I've got a great table.
It's great. Tell us the story behind the table, because it's great.
The table is scaffold boards that have been treated and put some legs on, and it looks awesome. So visual aspects really help. I use like 70s and 80s funk and soul in the background, Heart of Glass and James Brown, and so
tune
exactly. So people are just like, immediately you've got something which you can relate to. And I just look, as we were discussing earlier, look like an everyday individual. I don't speak with an extremely posh accent or anything like that, just a normal guy. And having those elements within the content, immediately people can gravitate to it, and obviously then you want to try and deliver some gold, and people are resonating with it. So yeah, I'm just pushing that button hard at the moment, and it seems to be working. It
is, honestly, congratulations, because it's working so well. What tips would you give to other people trying to grow their social media, because you've done it amazingly?
Yeah, I think what people get hooked up with on social media is they have an ego about their content, and removing the content is not about you, and it's definitely not about the product that you're selling. And so if you completely make content for an individual, so I have like an avatar, he's called Dave, he's 34, he lives in a suburban 2 up 2 down, he's paid 40 grand.
Love that for him.
He's a top guy, he's got 2 kids. I go deep into the psyche, and so every piece of content, and there's 3 avatars that I have, every piece of content speaks exactly to that individual. And if you can do that and remove your ego, you will start to find traction, because you're the algorithm is smart to find those people for you, and you need something that's engaging. Like, a lot of people make the mistake of jumping on social media and going, hello, my name's Gary, and yeah, I'm going to do this today. And immediately you just scroll.
People's attention spans are so short. I remember I started ego posting because I didn't know what to post on TikTok, and I do like days in the lives or something, and then I realised actually no one cares. No one cares at all. And then when I started posting like tips and tricks on tax and finance, that's when my social media started gaining traction, because you have to take yourself out of the equation. I was like, Grace, no one cares what you get up to in a day. They care about how they can save money and invest and save for the future. That is what they care about.
100%. So you're hitting the nail on the head there. You're going straight to the emotion. It's about invoking an emotion in someone and giving them the answer up front. People don't want to wait till the end. They do want an outcome in the content as well. So having a visual hook, text-based hook on screen, cool, funky tune, maybe over the top. This is what grabs people in. And suddenly they're like, that's different. I've seen this a million times. So it can be exactly the same. We take fitness, for example. Like I work with people to grow their social media and their businesses outside of this as well. And one of the big things I say is just find your unique point of difference, because you can be in fitness and still smash it. Like, we've got this guy, he's now making content. He goes up to the top of Dunstable Downs where he lives, and he does all of the exercises on top of basically the highest hill with this incredible view around him.
That's amazing.
So when he's doing the exercises, normally you just see someone in the gym going, this is how you do a squat, blah, blah. And he does it on the top of the mountain. It's his point of difference. So immediately it stops the scroll because it looks different. Same kind of content, but just visually completely appealing. So that is how you break through in a crowded space.
I think that's so important. And I've tried to do it, because I think working in corporate, you're always told to be the same as everyone else and don't be different, and just sort of like go with the flow.
School.
Yeah. School does the same thing as well. They teach you all the same exams to be the same sort of person, and they basically make you into the perfect worker. But it doesn't suit everyone.
Well, it's an industrial age setup that's not changed at all since 1850s. So we've got a problem there, because right now we're in a digital revolution where borders and boundaries are completely different. And so people can now set up businesses from their bedroom, never leave, and do more than a company with 500 employees quite easily as well, which is breaking those divides. And our education system hasn't caught up with that. And what people want to learn today is completely different to what they wanted to learn 10 years ago. So we need to try and find a way of being a little bit more flexible with our school system. As we know, financial literacy is a big problem in this country, and that's a small part of it. But actually, it's the physical education system itself, which is very archaic. It
is, but I'm very passionate that financial literacy and education should be taught in schools, because especially now, I think it's 33% of Gen Z want to be self-employed, and that's amazing, and I'm so happy for them. But the school system needs to change to allow things like tax and savings and budgeting and investing also to be taught, because they're so crucial. Because like all my clients, for example, they start their businesses because they're so passionate about what they do, and that is so lovely to see, but they don't know the first place to start about finance because they were never taught it.
Yeah, and it's often we're set up at the moment to like go and make your own mistakes, figure it out along the way, but what that does is enslave an entire country into debt, because we don't understand debt. And we are very much in this like mentality now with social media where we've got to keep up with the Joneses. So we use debt to supplement lifestyles that we don't necessarily need. And what that does is breed this whole nation of people that are used to spending credit cards, that are taking out car finance that they can't afford, that are overspending on their houses. And then suddenly they all turn around and go, I've got no money. Well, no shit. So it's like, we've got to kind of change that. But it's not their fault. It's just what they've been taught, and it's stuff like buy now, pay later is such a brutal
black hole, because it's marketed so well. It's got all the colours, it's fun, it looks great, they sell it really, really well, but as soon as you don't pay it, then your credit score just goes down the drain. You then end up in loads of debt because you're buying these things that you can't necessarily afford, and you're doing it on buy now, pay later because you don't have the money for it right now.
100%. And we're being squeezed left, right and centre at the moment, and that's why it's quite, I imagine that's why it's taken off as much as it have, where our spending power has gone down, but we still want to supplement the lifestyle and keep up with John next door who's bought his new car. You know, we will go out and put ourselves into consumer debt just to do that. And buy now, pay later allows you to do that. I mean, I saw Deliveroo is now on there, and
is it?
Yeah, there's other things as well that have gone on recently. Names escape me at the moment, but I remember looking and just thinking, like, you're putting takeaways now on there, food shopping on buy now, pay later. It's just mad. So what happens then when you can't pay? Now food becomes like the one commodity that we need as human beings.
Yeah.
Now becomes a buy now, pay later. I think it's gone too far.
I would definitely agree with you. I also think that seem to be very materialistic now, especially with social media, because we see all these like amazing lives like plastered everywhere, and so we want to be like that, so people go out and get those things because it's a trend to sort of fit in, and I think that's such a shame.
Yeah. If you by the time I get home today, I'd have been fed over 10,000 adverts.
Really?
Which is just nuts. You don't even realise it.
If you're here because you're interested in a career in finance, there's no better place to turn than AAT. I should know, that's how I started out. Every year, thousands of school leavers, finance professionals, and career changers choose to study AAT qualifications. They come out with a qualification that employers value, increased salary potential, and a wide range of career progression opportunities. Did you know a large number of FTSE 100 CEOs come from an accountancy background? You can study at home or in the classroom. Depending on your circumstances, you may be able to get your studies funded. You can also earn and learn in the workplace as an accounting apprentice. Find out more about careers in finance at aat.org.uk/unconventional. No, I didn't even realise that. I mean, you see them all the time on billboards, but actually, to be fair, when you're scrolling through social media, those are ads. Everything I post is an ad for my own business.
Exactly. It all is at the end of the day, but I think where we've just allowed it to run as a society, walk down the street, someone's got that nice bag, you see it on the billboard, you see it suddenly on your phone, you talk about it to your mates, then suddenly you're tracked weirdly on, it pops up on my Instagram feed. Suddenly you're purchasing something that you didn't necessarily even really want. Like, do you actually necessarily have it? Like, I have a very clear rule. Anything above £100, I tell myself I've got to wait 24 hours now.
I do that. I do a 24-hour ban.
Nice.
Because I'm obsessed with handbags. I love a nice handbag. Honestly, it's like my kryptonite. So I'll see a really nice handbag, like a really nice design handbag, and I'll be like, oh my God, that handbag would make me so happy.
Yeah, I'm on trainers.
Trainers for you.
Yeah,
24-hour ban. Then usually the serotonin is gone and I don't exactly want it anymore.
Yeah, and it's understanding your spending triggers in those moments as well. So this is that whole harking back to that piece of awareness. Like, I know that if I'm feeling slightly down, or maybe I went out on the Saturday night and had a few beers, on Sunday morning I will lie in bed and buy stuff. And I know that about myself now, so I can check my behaviour. Whereas before it would just run unsavaged, and then suddenly I've got like loads of consumer debt in my mid-20s. Like, why is that? Because I was overspending. And so, yeah, understanding that piece about yourself, you can really kind of go, no, hang on, what am I doing? Leave it in the basket. And actually leaving it in the basket
get discount codes.
You nailed it. You end up getting stuff sent to you. Like, you've left this in your basket. Here's 10% off. Fantastic. Like, so actually it's a tactic as well.
It is, but also don't fall for sales all the time, because that's a rabbit hole in itself.
Yes.
They're all out to get us.
I know.
You also talk about steps to building wealth, and everyone can do these steps. What are they?
So we've touched on one earlier, which is securing yourself emergency fund. Once you get into that, then you're ready to save, and you're essentially ready to invest. And it's just going back to that 5-year rule again, because for me, saving towards a goal is very important. I'm not one person that says you must save and you can't invest, or you must invest and you can't save. You should be doing both at the same time, and that's very much set up by your goals. So your next steps are to start saving, to start putting money away, getting yourself into a good habit. Essentially, it goes like this. If you're in debt, get yourself back to net zero as soon as possible. Then secure yourself with an emergency fund. You should have done a budget right at the beginning of all of this. Everyone goes, budgeting, boring. And it is. But there are amazing apps and bits of technology now which can take away all of that stress for you.
What apps do you recommend people?
I like Snoop. Is really, really cool. I'm such a shame Money Dashboard shut down. It was a really, really cool bit of kit. But Snoop's great. Plum's very good now as well. It's got the budget maximizer in there, which gives you a daily spending limit, and it actually predicts using smart AI, which you can save.
That's so clever.
It's very cool. So I really like the both of those. But I'm old fashioned. I have everything on a spreadsheet.
I've got an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've tried to make it fun and sexy, but it's not. It's definitely not.
And what are the next steps after that?
You've got yourself to that point. You can now save, and then you can invest. Then the bonus hack of that is increasing your income via your primary job, side hustle businesses, to then allow you to invest and save even more. So that's like the fuel to the jet plane, essentially, which will really sort of kick these things off and allow you to get to your goals a lot faster. So that, people say that it's like, but that's actually not that hard when you think about it. And there's not really much in between.
People that have jobs want to start side hustles. I think there's so many out there, and there's so many you can choose from. But you also want something that doesn't take up all of your time, because at the end of the day, you do have a primary job as well. So what sort of side hustles would you suggest people start looking into?
So I think the term side hustle gets banded around for everything which is not related to your primary income. And I do think that's the wrong way of looking at things. So for me, side hustles, just by the name of it, is essentially the side piece to your main thing. That's what it is. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to start a business and start running things. This could be online surveys, website testing, going into stores and giving like feedback and
mystery secret shopper.
Thank you. Mystery shopping, focus groups, all of these types of things are great side hustles because they're sporadic. They're not every day. You can do them to pick up a bit of cash. That's like the definition for me of a side hustle. Then I think like there's a side hustle business, which is then when you've got an idea and you're going to develop it, and you're going to start developing a service or a product which you're going to then take to market. Very different things. So I think that people should separate that, because you can side hustle your way to earning a bit more extra cash, doing the things that we just mentioned to give yourself extra money to invest. This is the massive thing. Don't lifestyle inflate because you've earned a bit of money from your side hustle. Keep everything the same and invest all of the profits, because it will just start paying you back in the future. And that's the one thing about investing, which I feel like people don't realize, is that these things take time. With compound interest, you need the one thing that makes compound interest work is time. But the more you give it, the faster it will work, essentially. Not faster, but...
Also, the earlier you start as well.
Yeah.
The earlier you can start, the better. And I think it's so important to say that you don't need to start with loads of money. You can there's investing platforms that you can start with £1.
Exactly.
And so it's so crucial, even if you're just paying 20 quid a month, because that's all that you want to put in. That's such a good place to start.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another misconception, I feel like, about personal finance, is that you need loads of money and that you need to be this trader in a suit in Liverpool Street, like shouting at people down the phone. That's what we're told and what we see in films. Yeah. And actually that's still massively ingrained into society. So technology is helping break those molds, which is fantastic. And as you mentioned, there's apps out there that are allowing people to do, low cost fractional share investing, which is fantastic. I really do think it's amazing. Some of the platforms are more gamified than others.
Yeah,
so you've got to be very careful with who you select, because if you're quite susceptible to flashy colors and fast like trade, buy, and like, well done, you just bought a stock, well done, you sold a stock, like those are dopamine hits.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful with those. So finding the right platform for you. But if you don't know anything about investing, there's now platforms which you can jump on and they'll take care of all of the stress for you. You answer like 7 to 10 questions. It develops you a risk profile, your wealthifies, your invest engines, and they just give you a portfolio based on who you are and where you are inside of your life and where your goals and how much you're going to invest. And then you can literally just set it up, direct debit, automate it, and crack on with your life, because you're a busy person. You've probably got kids, or you've got a busy life, social, whatever that might be, or you're building a business. The last thing you necessarily want to be doing is like worrying about Apple's stock price earnings this month, because like majority of people will read that earnings report and it will blow their mind. They won't even know where to start. But you can think that Apple is a good business to invest in because it's doing everyone's got an iPhone, right? So this is a very different way of thinking of it.
But also I think it's really important to not get obsessed with your investments. For me personally, I put all my investments and I try not to look at it, because it's very easy to see when things are going badly, to take your money out. And that is the worst thing you can do with it. You should just shove it in and leave it and watch it compound over time. I
completely agree. I actually utilize a strategy. I put the same amount in every single month, and I just watch what's happened over that period of that month. And if the market has gone up during that month, I'll invest slightly less during that month. And if the market has gone down during that month, I'll invest slightly more. So some of that money will just stay as cash within my account. And the reason for doing that is because over time, my average is going to be much lower that I keep buying for. So just by investing into a basic index fund, a global index fund, that's exactly what I will do. And it just allows me, over time, my results will just be a little bit better. So that's a little hack. If you can handle it, if the markets do drop, and it's natural and it's actually healthy that they do. Yeah. But if you scan out and look over time, which is why we invest for the long term and we're not trying to get results next week, 'cause it's just impossible to do that. It's not impossible, but it's very, very difficult.
It's not sustainable either.
It's not sustainable, exactly. And there's a reason why people just say invest in index funds, is because Warren Buffett challenged one of the biggest hedge funds in the world.
Yep.
And to try and beat him, just passively investing into index funds, and they lost by quite considerable way on 5 different types of funds. So just goes to show.
It does. So someone listening to this is now very geared up about personal finance and wants to start the personal finance journey. What resources would you recommend to them?
Very much depends on what type of learner you are, which is what I've tried to do with Up the Gains. So we have the podcast, we have the website, and we have the YouTube channel and social media. So if you're a visual learner, we've got video for you. If you like, sticking your podcast in and going full length and while you're walking the dog, then that's great. We're there too. So just understanding what type of learner you are. YouTube is your best friend at this point. There's so much great content out there. The likes of Damien Talks Money for personal finance, probably the best YouTuber in the country right now for personal finance. Up the Gains, or this podcast.
Obviously.
If you like podcasts, and if you're a reader, there's some fantastic UK-based personal finance guys have written some fantastic books. Ellie Austin Williams, This Girl Talks Money, brilliant book. And so there's lots of different resources. Just know who you are as a learner, and then try and find some people that you like and resonate with, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think relating to them is really, really important. Find someone you see yourself in, I always think, is a good person. Someone that might be in your audience may not see themselves in me, and that's okay, and that's why they're part of your audience. And I think that's so good to be aware of as well. Yeah.
Like, one of the things I've really tried to let down now is that I'm never going to please everybody. But if I get my tribe and they like me, I like them, and that's great. And so, find someone that you're happy to join their tribe, and, really just lock in and go with them on their journey and support them.
What is a piece of advice you wish you could give to your younger self about personal finance?
Oh, God.
You can give a couple if there's a lot.
No, it's hard to know. To be honest with you, I was brought up not understanding the value of a pound. My parents are lovely people, but they spent everything they earned, and that was ingrained into me. I would have loved to have understood the power of compound interest at a younger age, and even just putting £5 or £10 away from the age of 18 a month would have been so powerful. Now, I probably could have paid off my mortgage by now. So I feel like understanding that, one piece of advice I was given, and that's what changed my entire outlook on the world, was essentially I was sitting on a beach in Vietnam, paid for by a credit card, deep in debt, with an entrepreneurial friend of mine that was doing really well with his business. And he asked me, when do you want to retire? And I said, 55, that'd be nice. And he said, right, well, when do you want to live to? And I said, well, about 80, 85. And he said, well, how much do you spend a year? And I said, well, about this. And he said, well, take that number and times that number by the amount of years from when you retire to when you want to die. Do you have that number? And if the answer is no, then you need to do some work towards getting there. And it is essentially your financial freedom number. But just by doing it in that framework, 30 years, can I afford to live the life that I'm currently living right now? Mm-hmm. If the answer is no, then you've got a bit of work to do.
I think that's so important for everyone listening, because I don't think we think about that. I think a lot of people think they'll retire and then their pension is just going to cover the cost of life. Mm-hmm. and it doesn't.
No, state pension barely covers weekly expenses.
Also, the age is just going up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
I probably won't get it till I'm like 70.
You might not even get it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a long, long time. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen in 50 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, massively. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.